Hey, it's Heather the Baker again here today. I am not cooking today out of an antique cookbook that I found in an antique shop. Instead, I am cooking an antique recipe from my great-grandma Laura Barrett. She lived in Harriet, South Dakota, and she was just an amazing woman. She loved to bake, she loved to paint, she loved to craft, she loved her family. Every time my family went there for Christmas or for any other time, she welcomed us with open arms. Her house always smelled delicious, and she's passed down a couple of recipes to me personally through my grandma and my aunt, and then I'm also talking with my family to get recipes from them and memories from them. I actually just got one yesterday for cinnamon rolls. I'm going to be making those on Sunday. I'm very excited. Today, I'm going to be making ginger cookies. Now, they're a very easy recipe. There are only a handful of ingredients, and my grandma Carol gave me this recipe and said that it was one of her favorites that her mom made. Again, this recipe does not have a picture. Also, again, this recipe makes 5 dozen cookies. As I said in the last video, I don't need that many dozen cookies. So I've scaled down the recipe again, and you can find it, the full recipe, on my website. So let's get started. Now, like I said, this recipe is very easy, just a few easy ingredients: baking soda, Crisco, 1 egg, ground ginger, molasses, sugar, and flour. I am using my kitchen scale because I'm scaling down the recipe. It's much easier to do those by weight. And then if you remember from my video last time, if you have 1 egg in a recipe and you want to scale it down, you can use liquid eggs, or if you have a kitchen scale, you can crack it, whisk it, and use half. Recipe says to take the cookies now, roll them into a ball about a walnut size, and dip them into sugar. I'm going to use a cookie scoop to make things just a little bit easier, and then I've got my sugar. Let's get started. Now, these might be slightly bigger than what the recipe calls for, but I really don't need a ton of cookies, so if these are a little bit bigger, that's fine. You'll see I rolled them in sugar. You can sprinkle them with sugar instead if you want. Now it's time to bake. One fun little fact about cookies is that most cookies you can put in the refrigerator to keep for a little bit, or you can put them in the freezer and they'll keep for even longer. Now, as you know, I just made fudge nut cookies. I'm making these today. We don't need that many cookies, and there's only so many that you can share before people say, stop giving me cookies. I haven't heard that yet, but it is possible. So for the rest of the ginger cookies, I have rolled them into a ball. I've sprinkled them with sugar. They're on a plate with parchment paper, and I'm going to stick these in the freezer just so that we can enjoy them later. I have one more fun little tip about baking today. So we don't have a printer. I'm not necessarily going to print recipes at work. And so how do you look at a recipe without constantly having to open your phone? Well, I put them as a screenshot wallpaper picture on my iPad. And so all I have to do is tap a button and the entire recipe comes up, and I don't have to print or save paper. Fun fact. And here's what the cookies look like when they come out of the oven. Those look beautiful. I'm going to let them cool for just a moment, and then we're going to give them a taste. Okay, now's the best part, like I said, of baking, my favorite part. taste testing. Now, I've never baked with molasses before, so I'm very interested to find out how these bake together. I love the crinkling at the top. That just looks like the absolute perfect cookie. My grandma did say that if you wanted to make these into ginger snaps, that you could just bake them longer and they will get harder and crisp. Some people like those, some people don't. I wanted to try them just the regular way, so let's give it a taste. This is, remember, my great grandma's recipe. Oh, that's so good. Oh my goodness. There's no like spice to it. It's just a deep, dark, molassesy, even though I've never baked with molasses before, cookie. Like, that's the best way that you can describe it. The edges, the edges are a little crunchy, but the middle is so soft. And like the other cookies, these have Crisco, so no butter, and you're not really missing that butter flavor. So I would have to say this is a 100% awesome recipe by my great grandma. You can read more about her and get this full recipe on my blog. The link is below. Please also subscribe so that you can keep up with me and what I'm baking out of vintage cookbooks. Have a great day.